Oh, it's so hard. I mean, look, first of all, being a director is a very lonely job and there's a lot of pressure. And I think the only way that I got through it is I just surrounded myself with people that were so much smarter than me. As it relates to the acting part, it's a heavy load to carry. I wanted to do as much justice as I could to survivors by making Ryle as truthful as possible.
What was the most challenging scene for you to get right?
Oh my God, all of them. This whole movie, honestly, the work that I did on screen was easier than the work that I did off screen in this movie because of all that went into it. So I really look at I love a challenge though, and I'm just so proud of every bit of it. We went through a whole roller coaster of the human experience, and I'm very proud.
I was testing for a show that ended up actually getting picked up and doing very well, and I was one of two people maybe, and then I get a call from my managers and my agent. They were both on the line, which means it's something serious.
Right.
Either you got the job or there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And they said, so you were the choice, but the network said that your eyebrows would be too distracting.
Oh, what?
Oh no.
And then they went like, so what can we do about your eyebrows?
And we went into the audition and he signed in, and then the casting director came out and said, Blake? And Eric said, yep, that's her. And I just thought I was gonna die. And she said, we don't have you on our call sheet. And he said, oh, and he put his agency's name. And so I auditioned, and I didn't know what to say in that moment. I was 16 and my brother had just written my name on a piece of paper and they were looking at me. So I walked in the room and did the audition.
I'm honored, and I'm also more honored that because, what we're talking about is so important and so meaningful, that we're able to have this much anticipation, and so many people want to go see it and are talking about it. That's what I'm grateful for.
And you had a key part in bringing it to the big screen. How did this all come to be?
Well, in 2019, I read the book. I was sent the book by my book agent and friend at the time, and I was looking for films that could inspire, that were commercially viable, but also could really reach in and touch somebody's heart.
I was making I don't know, juice with there was this maple water on set, and I was like, oh, water tapped from a maple tree. This is exciting. But instead of just handing him a plastic red cup that I was drinking out of, I went and got the martini glass, a crystal glass, and shook it up for him properly, because you can't hand that man a red cup.
No.
And so he's standing on a dock with mud around, and he's holding a crystal martini glass. It was just juice and maple water.
Well, I love romance. I'm a hopeless romantic. Romance is everywhere in my life, but I had never read a romance novel, and I didn't understand why. And I'm sure a part of that has to do with my unconscious subscription to the man box, and I shouldn't, that's not manly. But I read this novel and I couldn't even finish it.
Justin Baldoni won't settle. He's made that point crystal clear from day one. No discreet payouts, no half-hearted apologies, and no secret negotiations. He wants a public courtroom battle that puts everything on display. Meanwhile, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, Hollywood's golden couple, are watching their once untouchable reputations come under siege. If you've been wondering how a simple disagreement could escalate into a multi-million-dollar legal war, hang on, because this showdown is about to reshape the entire landscape of celebrity power. Before the legal documents and salacious headlines, there were subtle hints that something wasn't right. Although public appearances showed smiles and camaraderie, insiders whispered about brewing issues behind closed doors. Some claimed Blake and Ryan were controlling on set. Others said Justin's creative input clashed with the couple's vision. The truth likely falls somewhere in between. Yet what started as minor friction turned into a full-blown standoff, igniting suspicions that a major confrontation was looming. The warning signs were there all along: hushed arguments, awkward body language at press events, and a sense that one spark could trigger an explosion. Hollywood often glosses over such conflicts by issuing bland statements about artistic differences. But beneath the surface, relationships can crumble fast. This time, those cracks were far too big to paper over. There would be no quiet compromise, no polite exit. Something was bound to give, and it did, in a way that left everyone reeling. When accusations of harassment and defamation surfaced, the story went from backstage gossip to front-page scandal. Blake Lively, known for her charm and down-to-earth persona, suddenly faced claims that questioned her integrity. Ryan Reynolds, celebrated for his quick wit and comedic brilliance, found himself linked to the controversy by association, and possibly by deeper involvement. Justin Baldoni, for his part, insisted these damaging rumors were orchestrated to tarnish his name and push him out of a career-defining project. Hollywood heavyweights and fans alike sat up in alarm. In an industry built on image, such allegations can be lethal. Deals vanish, advertisers flee, and reputations often crumble under the relentless glare of the media. For Justin, it wasn't just about money or attention, it was a matter of salvaging his professional life. He refused to let these claims become his defining narrative. So instead of retreating, he struck back with the one thing that could match the power of a star couple, a massive lawsuit. From the start, Justin made it obvious that he had no intention of playing by Hollywood's unwritten rulebook. Settlements, secret agreements, and vaguely worded retractions are the time-tested ways big names save face in Tinseltown. But Justin wasn't looking for a quiet exit. He wanted total vindication. Let me just tell you, for a relative underdog, that's both a bold move and a huge gamble. Early on, skeptics wrote him off, arguing he would never match the legal firepower of Blake and Ryan. After all, they sit comfortably atop an empire built on box office hits, brand endorsements, and media influence. But Justin wasn't bluffing about taking this all the way to trial. He believed the truth, along with stacks of evidence, emails, text messages, behind-the-scenes accounts, would favor him once it all came to light. That's where the unexpected billionaire ally changed the game overnight. Rumor has it, this deep-pocketed supporter didn't just offer a blank check for legal expenses, he also provided strategic advice and powerful connections. Suddenly, the fear that Justin would be outspent evaporated. With that hurdle removed, Justin's lawyers dug in even harder, filing court motions that made it clear they would not be bullied or coerced. For him, the stakes are sky high. Losing means a tarnished reputation and possible career exile. Winning could open the floodgates for bigger roles, greater respect, and a symbolic victory for industry underdogs everywhere. The emotional toll can't be ignored either. Lawsuits of this magnitude drain energy, time, and resources in a way few realize. Yet Justin appears resolute, fueled by what he sees as a moral imperative to stand his ground. He's convinced that once a jury hears his side, unfiltered by PR spin, they'll side with him. It's the kind of unwavering self-belief that either leads to a triumphant underdog victory or a spectacular downfall. Whichever way it goes, it's clear he'd rather roll the dice than quietly accept a check and a gag order. If Justin's stance rattled Hollywood, it absolutely shook Blake and Ryan's world to the core. Their carefully cultivated images started to unravel the moment news of the lawsuit leaked. Initially, they assumed their PR teams could contain the fallout, issue denials, question Justin's credibility, and move on. But public opinion can be fickle, especially when doubts about someone's authenticity take hold. Almost immediately, Blake's ventures felt the repercussions. Her once celebrated hair care line experienced an abrupt slump, with retailers reporting a spike in returned products. Those brands had banked on Blake's wholesome appeal, but now found themselves tied to a figure mired in controversy. Suddenly, calls for boycotts spread online, and major stores reconsidered stocking her items. Her other big project, a beverage line, didn't fare any better. Investors, already skittish, began to reevaluate their commitments, worried that negative publicity would hinder sales. Meanwhile, Ryan, long admired for his comedic edge and affable persona, couldn't escape the turmoil either. Sponsors and studios monitor public sentiment like hawks. If an actor's name is entangled in scandal, it can raise questions about their bankability. While Ryan still has a legion of fans, Hollywood executives hate unpredictability. With the lawsuit's potential to drag on for months or even years, no one wants to be caught in the crossfire of a high-profile meltdown. Rumors swirled that some producers were already revisiting contract terms, inserting clauses to protect themselves if the star's reputation sank further. As the pressure mounted, so did speculation about how Blake and Ryan would respond. Would they double down and try to discredit Justin at every turn? Or would they consider a quiet settlement to stop the bleeding? Despite Justin's avowed refusal, those close to the couple hinted they were torn, fearing a prolonged legal clash could expose unflattering secrets. Yet every attempt to fix the situation seemed to backfire, fueling more coverage and adding more tension to an already explosive situation. At this point, the ripple effect extends far beyond the couple's brand deals. Colleagues, friends, and even charities they support started to question whether public association with them could become a liability. In Hollywood's swift-moving current of image and perception, even the biggest fish can get left behind if the water turns too toxic. And all it took was one person, Justin Baldoni, standing his ground to spark a chain reaction that no one can fully control. The tension isn't just playing out in legal documents, it's also unfolding across talk shows, news segments, and every corner of social media. Blake and Ryan have legions of fans who argue that these accusations are overblown, pointing to the couple's history of philanthropy and squeaky clean public image. Justin's supporters counter that his refusal to settle shows he's either incredibly brave or has nothing to hide. And perhaps both. The internet has become a battlefield of hashtags, memes, and receipts, each side determined to prove it has the moral high ground. Hollywood PR experts are watching this meltdown with a mixture of fascination and dread. They know that once a story spirals beyond carefully managed press statements, it becomes nearly impossible to rein in. Every interview or social media post is dissected in real time, fueling even wilder speculation. Studios fear the ripple effect. If either side loses the public's trust, any upcoming projects connected to them could be overshadowed by negative chatter. Even streaming services monitor social sentiment closely. If the tide of public opinion worsens, it could influence whose shows get renewed, whose movies get greenlit, and which contracts are quietly terminated before they begin. This isn't your typical Hollywood squabble that fades after a week of sensational headlines. The stakes are enormous, hundreds of millions of dollars, and the credibility of everyone involved. Fans, critics, and casual observers all want to know the same thing. What really happened? No one's backing down, and the social media war appears ready to keep escalating, especially if more unexpected revelations come to light. In many ways, the online spectacle has taken on a life of its own, pushing both camps to respond faster and with more intensity than they might if this were a private dispute. The result is a never-ending cycle of accusations and defenses, and no clear end in sight. People sometimes forget that when high-profile stars and studios collide, countless others get swept up in the drama. Agents, producers, publicists, and even smaller production staff could be dragged into the fight as potential witnesses or collateral damage. Whispers are already circulating that lawyers plan to subpoena internal emails, phone records, and on-set footage that might expose sensitive information, possibly beyond the scope of this single conflict. That's the last thing Hollywood wants, a treasure trove of embarrassing details spilled into the public record. There's also a growing concern that the entire system could be forced to reckon with how it handles allegations of misconduct. Historically, powerful figures have relied on NDAs and private settlements to bury controversies, but Justin's refusal to settle suggests a larger shift may be underway, where public trials become a new norm for airing grievances. If that happens, we might see more celebrities or industry insiders step forward with their own long-suppressed issues, igniting a chain reaction that leaves no corner of Hollywood untouched. Then there's the looming question of loyalty. Within the entertainment world, friends and collaborators are being asked to pick sides, often at great risk to their own careers. Some are standing by Blake and Ryan, trusting that time and evidence will vindicate them. Others are distancing themselves, wary of a scandal that could tarnish their reputations by association. Meanwhile, Justin's camp continues to rally more support, buoyed by the promise that if they stay the course, they can alter the power dynamic in an industry that rarely sees underdogs come out on top. This is a moment of reckoning. If Justin succeeds, it may encourage more people to confront high-profile figures who misuse their influence. If Blake and Ryan prevail, it could reinforce Hollywood's long-standing culture of settling disputes behind closed doors. Either way, insiders say the court date will be the biggest showdown in years, a spectacle that might reveal secrets many hoped would remain buried. With so many livelihoods on the line and industry titans scrambling to anticipate the fallout, one thing is certain: by the time this is over, Hollywood may never look the same. So here we are, racing toward a reckoning that few saw coming. Justin Baldoni's refusal to settle has forced Blake and Ryan into a corner they never imagined they'd occupy, sparking a chain reaction that threatens to unravel years of success and public goodwill. Endorsements are vanishing, trust is eroding, and the once untouchable aura surrounding this power couple has faded into doubt. Meanwhile, Justin stands firm, promising a legal battle for the ages, one that might lift the veil on Hollywood's darker side for everyone to see. At this point, it's hard to say if there's any way back from the brink. Could an 11th hour agreement save face for all involved? Or is the damage already too deep for easy fixes? I have it on good authority that both sides are gearing up for a final showdown, with twists and revelations that could leave careers in tatters. Because once this hits the courtroom, the entire entertainment world might be redefined by the shockwaves. The only certainty? With Justin holding the line against any settlement, there's no telling how far the fallout will spread or how devastating it might become.